Good evening. It is big news for basketball fans. Word tonight that Toronto will be getting a WNBA team.
The team isn't expected to take the court until 2026, but that hasn't stopped fans from getting excited about the prospect. CTV's Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the latest. Siobhan, what do we know?
Well, not a ton, nothing confirmed right now. A lot of rumor, innuendo, and as you mentioned, a lot of excitement. The hope is that this is the final culmination of years of very loud cheering and campaigning, and hope tonight, finally, that Toronto will get a WNBA team.
Kia Nurse with a three in the corner.
It was a taste of things to come. A WNBA preseason game in Toronto last year, with pleas from the stands to bring a team here. That wish appears to be coming true, with multiple reports Toronto will be home to the WNBA's first Canadian team.
2026 is when we're expected to hopefully see a franchise. I'm going to speak it like it's already here because I like to manifest.
The mayor hints that something is coming.
It's time. So hopefully there will be good news soon. And I can't wait for that to happen.
Toronto's been embracing its new professional women's hockey team. A star on that team says Toronto has shown time and time again it's a sports-loving city.
With the WNBA, I was at the game last year and it was absolutely electric the entire week leading up to the game. So I couldn't be more excited to have the chance to witness women's professional basketball.
Future fans are ready to get loud.
I used to play basketball growing up, so it's good. To think that the girls will have a team on TV now or have a fan base, right?
Awesome, amazing. Yes, we really need that. I think it's a time that women actually have some time to showcase their talent.
I think it's great. I think we should have more women's professional sports teams. They're good role models for our daughters.
Showing women's sports can be a viable career.
This gives more room and more opportunity for players to have a home, for players to get paid, for players to eventually not have to go overseas.
Officially, this is not a slam dunk yet, with a WNBA spokesperson telling CTV News, "We continue to engage in productive conversations with interested ownership groups in a number of markets, and the granting of any expansion team requires a vote of the WNBA and NBA Board of Governors." Leaving the ball in the league's court, with fans hoping they'll take a chance traveling to the Six. The expected owner of that new Toronto franchise is the Kilmer Group, led by the chair of MLSE, Larry Tenenbaum. Right now, the Kilmer Group says they don't have any news to share. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still ahead, Toronto's professional women's hockey team is getting set to take the ice for Game 2 of their playoff series against Minnesota after a big win in Game 1. Sean Leathon will be live at Coca-Cola Coliseum.
And while one Toronto hockey team looks to advance in the playoffs, another is looking inward, trying to figure out why they did not.
The top three of Toronto Maple Leafs management faced reporters today and said going forward, nothing is off the table. CTV's John Musselman is live tonight with more. John.
Well, Nathan, that seemed to be what we were hearing today without directly saying it, that the leadership of this team will likely change. In front of more than a dozen TV cameras and upwards of 50 sports and news reporters, Keith Pelly, the new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, says there is only one mission: winning the Stanley Cup.
There's no complacency. We're not here to sell jerseys.
Pelly, an Etobicoke native, also made it clear he supports Brendan Shanahan as Leafs president.
Tavares scored in
As far as changes to the team, apparently everything is on the table. That seems to include possibly breaking up the core four of Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander.
Do you still believe this core group can win, and if so, why?
Well, that gets back to the essence of the opening statement. I think that when you, there's a time, again, not to repeat myself, but there's a time where you look at the age and the development of players and you talk about patience. And then there comes a time where you see certain patterns and trends repeat themselves. Results repeat themselves. And that's what we have to do this summer.
Shanahan says he takes full responsibility for the team's lack of success in the playoffs. He is coming off his 10th season since being named president back in 2014. Yesterday, head coach Sheldon Keefe was fired. A search for a new coach is underway.
We've got really good players, but
it hasn't worked, right? It hasn't worked to date.
TSN hockey analyst Gino Retta says fans are tired of excuses, and he believes changes are coming.
Leaf fans are sick and tired of winning during the regular season and then not winning when it really matters in the playoffs. And what Keith Pelley is saying is, no, it doesn't matter what we do in the regular season. All that matters is the way we finish, and finishing with the Stanley Cup.
I think they need to get some more physical and big players to make sure they can handle the pressure, and so they can play their game.
I think they need to get rid of one of the players from the core four. I think either Tavares or Marner.
The Leaf season ended last week with another Game 7 loss in the first round of the playoffs. They have only advanced to the second round once during Shanahan's time as president. And the team wouldn't get into any specifics about individual players today. They say that'll be a part of the internal review. The priority now is to find a new coach. Reporting live in Etobicoke, I'm John Musman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. But now let's take a look at the forecast. Conditions this hour are looking decent. You know, a little bit of cloud cover in the mix. We had an unsettled afternoon, but we are definitely not in the clear yet. However, the Mother's Day weekend is going to be anything but a washout. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. What are you seeing, Jess?
It is a little cloudy out there. We've seen scattered shower activity in and around the GTA, the downtown core staying relatively dry, but we're seeing the bulk of this low sitting south of us, but a trough extending off of it. That's kind of brought the chance of showers throughout the day today, and that continues into the evening. And then we see a little bit of a clearing take place. Temperature-wise, it's quite mild. We're sitting in that mid to upper teen range, really right across the board, making for a really beautiful and nice end to the evening. Temperature-wise through the islands and Pearson, it's a little cooler through the islands, a little more sunshine there as well. The closer you get to Pearson, the cloudier it gets. Tonight, sitting at 7, there could be a few light fog patches, but it should be pretty nice for the chance to see the northern lights. More on that coming up. But right now, I'll send things back over to Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Still to come tonight, incredible video from Northern Ontario. See the near-miss collision on a 2-lane highway and the chain reaction that followed. What caused this close encounter later on CTV News at 6.
But first, we have a developing story from Mississauga tonight where a motorcyclist has been rushed to hospital after colliding with a van. It happened just after 4:30 this afternoon near Burnhamthorpe Road and Perivale Road. According to police, a female motorcyclist was taken to hospital without vital signs after this crash. The driver of the van remained on scene. Roads in the area are expected to be closed for several hours.
Crews spent much of the day working to clean up a train derailment in Scarborough. It happened in the CP Railway Aging Courtyard near McCowan and Shepherd. There were no immediate reports of injuries, and the cause of the derailment is not known at this time.
3 people were injured in an overnight stabbing in Mississauga. Peel police were called to the Wolfdale Road and Forestwood Drive area just before 1 a.m. for a domestic incident. A female teenager was rushed to a trauma center in life-threatening condition, while a woman and male teenager suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Police say a man was taken into custody and there is no threat to public safety or any outstanding suspects. A large police presence remains in the area.
And police are investigating after a car crashed into a house in Mississauga. The vehicle struck this home on Fieldgate Drive near Burnhamthorpe and Dixie just after 10:30 last night. A woman who was in the car suffered minor injuries. The cause of the crash is still under investigation, and no word yet whether charges will be laid.
At the encampment protest on the campus of the University of Toronto, protesters say they are preparing for police to move in an attempt to move them out.
This comes after police in Calgary cleared an encampment last night. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live on campus with the very latest. Beth.
Nathan, protesters say there are now 150 people, as many as that, staying here in the encampment overnight. And yes, they are preparing for the possibility police could move in.
There have been multiple people walking on the roof, taking photos.
As the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto has grown over the past 8 days, so too have the concerns about who's watching over it.
We believe that they have access to facial recognition technology, trying to recognize individual students, identify them, and perhaps enact consequences on them. They are turned on when it gets dark, and they stay on all night long.
A spokesperson for the encampment takes CTV News on a tour, showing us floodlights and various infrastructure she says may be recording audio and video.
What we've seen in universities across the United States is between day 7 and day 10 is when there is usually an escalation from police officers and from administration. So we are prepared for the worst.
Protesters say they're prepared to stay for as long as it takes until the university meets their demands and are ready to defend the camp if police decide to move in.
Putting up temporary structures is not allowed on the...
Thursday night, police dismantled tents and removed protesters at the University of Calgary at the request of the school. Professor Robin Maynard has been visiting to check in on the camp and supports the protesters' demands. She argues it should not be considered trespassing on private property.
The fact that the students are being surveilled on their own university in a place where they are peacefully protesting, where they've established libraries, where they've established learning spaces.
In a statement, U of T says the University of Toronto is not using any form of facial recognition technology. There is a camera on site near the encampment area that was installed during recent construction on front campus. It was not installed to monitor the encampment. We are receiving videos of altercations and concerning speech from members of our community, which we are sharing with Toronto Police Services as appropriate.
They've been surveilling us nonstop.
Toronto Police say they are not doing surveillance of the site. U of T says it's not clear what reported assaults and hate speech are connected to people inside the camp, and suspected incidents will be reported to police. Tonight, activist and author Naomi Klein is planning to speak at the encampment. Toronto Police say that the university is leading the planning of the protest as it's happening on their property at this time. The university has not requested any assistance from Toronto Police. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg is retiring after 32 years of active service, including 8 in the top job. He shared the news in a statement, reflecting on his time with Toronto Fire Services, saying there wasn't a single day he hasn't been immensely proud to wear the uniform. Pegg also took on the role of COVID-19 incident commander when the pandemic took hold. On social media, he wrote this morning, "I advised the Toronto Fire Command team of my intention to retire from my position as fire chief. My last day on duty will be October 4th, 2024. Thank you, Toronto, from the bottom of my heart."
The fate of the highest-ranking black female Toronto police officer is now in the hands of an adjudicator. Arguments wrapped up at a disciplinary hearing about what punishment Superintendent Stacy Clarke should face for helping 6 constables cheat on a promotion exam.
But as John Woodward reports, a former police service board member says her case says a lot more about the service and its board.
Superintendent Stacy Clarke prayed shortly before she walked out of the auditorium in Toronto Police Headquarters. 5 days of hearings over, joined by supporters who believe this is about more than just misconduct.
All the other senior ranks are still not reflective of the city of Toronto.
Clarke has admitted she sent pictures of questions to 6 black constables before their promotional exam in 2021, something TPS lawyer Scott Hutchison told a discipline tribunal shows a lack of judgment that's far beneath Clarke's rank. He said, "This is so pernicious. It has the effect of propagating in 6 new sergeants the belief that this behavior is acceptable, who in turn become part of the leadership of this organization, and the cancer grows." But Clarke's lawyer, Joseph Markson, said the adjudicator would be wise to consider the context of Clarke's actions, pointing out that she was trying to level a playing field she believed was warped by discrimination in the ranks. He said this is a head-on collision with the realities of anti-black racism in society, in policing, and in the promotional process. Throughout the hearing, Clarke's lawyer has tried to turn the focus from Clarke's misconduct to what it's like to be a black police officer in the Toronto Police Service.
Systemic racial discrimination.
Reports have shown black people are targeted more by the service and black officers are promoted more slowly, made public as the service strives to improve.
But it's a penalty that we've always paid because we've had this color of skin.
Roy Williams was the first black person appointed to Toronto's Police Service Board. He said the board should look into why its 2021 policy to share questions with everyone in the name of fairness wasn't implemented by the police service.
The board is responsible. As a supervisory body, they're responsible. It is important to hold the chief's feet to the fire.
The TPS wants to bust Clarke down 2 ranks and then have her work her way back up from inspector. The TPS said in a statement it has revamped promotions last year to reduce subjectivity, saying, "We want to emphasize our unwavering commitment to rebuilding trust and eradicating all forms of discrimination, including anti-black racism, from our ranks and the services we provide to the community. As for Clarke, she'll know her fate this summer. John Woodward, CTV News.
Some traffic and transit disruptions to tell you about. There will be some modifications to the Lakeshore West GO train route this weekend. Trains will operate every 15 minutes between Union Station to Oakville GO, and then hourly between Oakville to West Harbour GO stations. The change is to allow for critical track work along the corridor.
And if you're planning to take the Line 1 subway tomorrow, there's a service change to tell you about. Trains will not run all day between Davisville and Shepherd Young stations. Shuttle buses will run instead.
Looking ahead to Sunday, motorists may want to check their routes in advance as the Sporting Life 10K Run takes over city streets. The annual event raises funds for Campfire Circle from 4 to 11 a.m. Sunday. Yonge Street will be closed between Eglinton and Davisville for the starting area. Then from 6:30 onwards, you can expect closures running down Yonge Street and then cutting west on Lakeshore Boulevard until as late as 1 p.m.
As wildfire season heats up, Alberta officials are asking the public to respect the rules around where and when they're allowed to set fires.
Albertans have a choice. They can help firefighters keep our forests and communities safe by respecting fire bans.
There are currently 40 active wildfires burning in Alberta. All are classified as under control or being held. Over 9,000 hectares have burned so far in 2024. By the same time last year, some 260,000 hectares had been burned.
The White House says in-person talks over a ceasefire and hostage exchange in Gaza may have ended, but it's still working to keep negotiations going virtually.
This comes as Israel's prime minister says his country won't be deterred from expanding its offensive in Gaza.
We can overcome them now, but we will do what we have to do to protect our country, and that means protect our future.
Israeli leaders say forces must go further into Rafah in order to defeat Hamas. It's already captured the Gaza side of the vital border crossing with Egypt. The Biden administration says it's still providing significant military support to Israel, but it's holding back a shipment of heavy bombs as it warns against a wider operation in Rafah, citing concerns over the risks to civilians.
A massive ground attack in Rafah would lead to an epic humanitarian disaster and pull the plug on our efforts to support people as famine looms.
So far, more than 100,000 people have fled the city, and fuel and food in the area are running critically low. The World Food Program is warning without more aid, it will run out of food for distribution in southern Gaza tomorrow. The UN Secretary General called on Israel and Hamas to demonstrate political courage and stop the bloodshed.
Meanwhile, the United Nations General Assembly voted to grant Palestinian representatives more rights within the body.
A vote for Palestinian existence. It is not against any state, but it is against the attempts to deprive us of our state.
While countries have different policies on recognizing the state of Palestine, the UN considers it a non-member observer state. 143 countries voted in favor of granting its representatives who hail from the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority more privileges at the UN, excluding voting rights. Canada abstained, while the U.S. and Israel opposed. The U.S. is widely expected to block a full membership bid at the Security Council.
As people across the world prepare to watch the Eurovision Song Contest, the music competition is facing protests over allowing Israel to participate this year.
We think that's wrong. They should not be a part of it, as Russia is not a part of it.
On Thursday, demonstrators marched through the streets of the Swedish city of Malmö, expressing outrage over Israel's participation. But Israel's performers secured a spot in tomorrow's final, and protesters say they plan to return.
Dozens of people were hurt today in a train collision in Argentina's capital. Safety officials say a passenger train was on its way from Buenos Aires to the northern suburbs when it collided with an empty train sitting on the tracks. While the incident is under investigation, the train company said at least 60 people had injuries of varying severity. Health officials said they treated about 100 passengers.
In Russia, 7 people are dead after a passenger bus fell off a bridge and plunged into a river in St. Petersburg. Crews were able to rescue several others who were transported to hospital. Russian officials say 15 people were on the bus when it plowed through a guardrail and plunged into the Moika River in Russia's second largest city.
As Ukraine says Russia is launching a new wave of attacks, Canada will contribute $76 million to a German military initiative to produce missile defense systems.
Canada does not have a significant capability of producing those munitions, and the time of production and the time of acquisition is frankly a great challenge. Through Germany's leadership, they have made it possible for those of us who may not have that capacity but want to help to step up.
Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, Canada has committed more than $14 billion in total support for Ukraine, $4 billion of which has been spent on military assistance. Some scary moments to show you now of a near miss involving several trucks on a highway in the province's north. A truck's dash cam captured the moment several transports were sent swerving into oncoming traffic during a sudden stop. It happened on Highway 11 near Matheson, east of Timmins. A truck with 2 trailers reportedly caught fire and quickly pulled over, forcing other vehicles to avoid it. It appears no one was seriously injured.
After a big win in Game 1, Toronto's PWHL team is getting set for Game 2 tonight against Minnesota.
It's expected to be another packed house at Coca-Cola Coliseum as fans gather to cheer on the team in their first ever playoff series. And that's where we find CTV's Sean Leathong tonight. Sean, what's the mood like there?
Well, it's anticipation, Nathan and Michelle. It's excitement, but it's a little bit different than last game, as that was as much a celebration about the success of the league. Tonight, fans want to win. On the day of Game 2 in their series against Minnesota, PWHL Toronto are trying to avoid any pressure.
You want to take things a little bit more seriously, but it's important to stay at the core to who you are and your team identity. And so with us, we just keep things light, have a lot of fun.
Just 2 nights ago, the team won the first ever PWHL playoff game in business-like fashion with a final score of 4-0. As the crowd of over 8,000 got what they wanted that night, the team expects a pushback from Minnesota and are planning to tailor their game.
There's just some adjustments within our game that we got to be better at.
It's understanding their tendencies, what they like to do, their face-off plays, how they like to break out the puck, how they like to forecheck. And so there are definitely things that we pre-scouted and we know about Minnesota.
Outside the arena, anticipation is once again building.
I'm so excited to see the girls on the ice and just be at my first hockey game, you know what I mean? I got my friends with me. It's going to be a great time, great atmosphere. I can't wait.
Oh, I'm excited, man. The first game was absolutely electric in here, and all season long, to be honest.
Very excited.
Why?
Because I think they're going to win tonight.
Backup goalie Carly Jackson is once again getting hot dogs, careful not to mess with the game day routine.
We won 2 days ago, so I got to set the tone. We started with Glizzy's last time. Going to start with Glizzy's today.
With Toronto finishing first overall in the regular season, tonight's a chance to take a stranglehold in this best-of-5 semifinal series before traveling to Minnesota for Game 3. And you can see all the fans streaming in here behind me. This has been going on for much of the afternoon. There was the anticipation. People want to get in. They want to get in early, and they do want that win. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong.
Thank you, Sean. Coming up, it's not yet peak strawberry season, but why wait? We explore the effort to make growing berries year-round more realistic in Canada. Meet a professor cultivating the ideal conditions with an assist from AI.
I'm Pat Foran. Coming up, it's Feedback Friday. We heard from other viewers not impressed with their driveway paving jobs. More people say they've been scam booking trips online and applying for Nexus cards to help them cross the border. Feedback Friday is just ahead.
All throughout the day today, and that continues into the day tomorrow. But the good news is it's a rebound just in time for Mother's Day, and it comes with some sunshine. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including your weekend and next week. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
We had a lot of feedback to our consumer stories on being scammed, booking vacations, applying for a Nexus card, and taking a taxi ride in a foreign country.
Right, and others also say they've not been satisfied with paving jobs where a huge pile of debris was left behind. Here's Pat Foran and Feedback Friday.
You have to be careful of pavers going door to door offering a great deal on driveway paving. Some may charge what seems like a low price, but you could end up with a shoddy job, no future contact, and a big mess on your lawn. How do you feel about this big mess on your lawn?
I'm disgusted with it.
Steve Park got a knock on his door from a paving company that said it was working in the neighborhood. The next day, they charged him $3,500 to pave his driveway. But it's uneven. Asphalt is splattered on the stonework. They originally paved over his water main and left a huge pile of debris on his lawn.
A handshake used to mean something, but it doesn't seem to anymore.
Sue told us my paver also left a pile of rubble behind. He did an awful job for $6,000, his 5-year warranty meaningless. If you have a Nexus card, you can cross the border between Canada and the U.S. much easier. The cost to get one is just $50 U.S. But some websites claim they can get it for you faster. A CTV viewer said he paid $1,500 for 2 Nexus cards almost a year ago and is yet to receive them.
I sent them an email. I text them, I call them, but nothing.
Jose wrote, I also got caught in the Nexus scam. I paid $1,600 a year ago, still no cards and no answers. Pat Shack lady took a cruise to Antarctica. She flew into Chile and took a taxi at the airport. The cab driver took her credit card and charged her 45,000 Chilean pesos, about $62 Canadian. But when she returned home, her credit card had been charged almost $7,000.
When I got home and looked at my bank account, I almost had a heart attack.
Chrysanda told us, my husband used a taxi in Santiago. Fare was supposed to be $20 US. He was charged $10,000. MasterCard made us pay it. Barry Good booked a villa in Costa Rica. He found the listing on a travel website, but the person renting the villa asked him to get off the platform to communicate on WhatsApp and wire him the funds directly. He was scammed out of over $7,700.
Everything looked so legit.
Edwin wrote, I booked a villa in Whistler for $5,600, which turned out to be a scam. I'm still fighting to get my money back. When you're booking a vacation online, you should always communicate and pay for the trip within the platform you're using. As soon as you leave the site, there are many protections you lose if you get scammed. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
An unusually strong solar storm could trigger the northern lights to be visible in places they aren't usually this weekend, and it could also potentially disrupt power and communications. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has issued a severe storm watch, the first time that's been done in nearly 2 decades. Officials say the strong solar flares are capable of disrupting satellites and power grids down here on Earth. Power plants and spacecraft in orbit will be taking precautions because of this. So from tonight through to Sunday, the northern lights, here's the trade-off, might be visible across southern Canada, the northern U.S. and parts of Europe, if the skies are clear.
So I mean, it looks good. I've seen it out in Regina, Saskatchewan. You've seen it out west
Winnipeg.
as well.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's really pretty. My fingers.
What are the chances?
So you're saying there's a chance. There is a little bit of a chance. We are looking at some clearing as we head into our evening, so I'm hopeful. I'll be outside. If I can stay awake, I'll be outside to try to see it. But it is going to be probably the better night of all the weekend is tonight to see the northern lights here in southern Ontario. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. It's been kind of a changeable day. We've seen some sun, some cloud, a few light showers in and around the GTA, but it really has just been a beautiful, albeit a little cloudy, end to the work and school week. Temperature-wise, very mild. 18 in Windsor. We're sitting at 15 here in the city, 16 through Ottawa, and even Northern Ontario still holding on to some teen temperatures. Red Lake sitting at 15. Now, for the northern lights tonight, probably if we're going to see them, is the best night. We do have some cloud cover still at 9 p.m. Heading towards 11, it clears out, and there's just a few clouds if you're up at 1 a.m. So if you want to see them, tonight is probably the better and clearer night to do so. For the rest of southern Ontario, temperature-wise this evening, very mild, a little light fog in and around the GTA, and then as we get into the day tomorrow, a little peak of sunshine. It's short-lived as the system makes its way in, set to bring a line of showers right across southern Ontario throughout the day tomorrow. The bulk of any of the disturbance we had today, the low was sitting south of us, but there was a trough extending off that kind of brought in just the chance of a few light showers throughout the afternoon, and that continues this evening, but really it's not coming to fruition for the majority of the GTA. There is that next line, and it's going to make its way through as we head into the day tomorrow. So again, tonight, a little clearing. Maybe not too bad for the northern lights before the fog starts to make its way in. Starting off our Saturday, the line of showers begins around 10 a.m. through Windsor across to London. For us here in the GTA through the downtown core, this is like a late afternoon, early evening situation. It just rotates counterclockwise, bringing the chance of showers into the end of the day on Saturday. Into Sunday, a little bit of clearing takes place. Beautiful for spending some time outside. Your weekend is going to be a bit mixed. We're looking at a bit of a cooler day on Saturday, but still in the teen temperatures. Into Sunday for mom or the mother figure in your life, or just for yourself. Sunday will be really beautiful. Getting into Monday, back up to 20 degrees. Those overnight lows climb above seasonal starting on Monday, and they stay above seasonal, so some pretty muggy nights ahead of us. But after that rain moves out on Monday, it kind of trickles into Tuesday morning, and then it clears out, and then we're looking at high pressure settling back in, clearing things out, and we are just above seasonal as we head throughout the majority of next week. So not bad as we settle into the middle of May. Michelle.
Love it. Thank you, Jess. Coming up just as fast as Toronto got word, stand-up comic Dave Chappelle is coming to town next week. All the shows sold out. The fan frenzy still ahead.
If you've ever bought strawberries from a grocery store in the winter, you'll know they tend to be imported, expensive, and may not even taste very good.
But a team from the University of Guelph is hoping to change that, taking part in a research challenge to find ways to grow berries on a large scale year-round here in Canada. CTV's Krista Simpson explains.
Red, juicy, and very particular.
Berry itself really need right temperature and enough light.
And that means growing strawberries in greenhouses can be expensive.
You provide the lighting, how much you provide. If it is too much, it's not economical. But if it is not enough, the plants don't perform.
University of Guelph horticulture professor Yubin Zhen is trying to identify the optimal conditions that in turn could make growing berries year-round in Canada more realistic. The project is part of the Homegrown Innovation Challenge, which is funded and delivered by the Weston Family Foundation.
To help with the challenges of growing this very picky plant, researchers are tapping into another tool, artificial intelligence.
So this is the sensor, soil moisture sensor.
The greenhouse full of sensors collecting data that AI can analyze.
Eventually, we hope AI is able to control the irrigation for us. And then we would save energy, save nutrients, save water.
Strawberries are also prone to disease, often necessitating the use of pesticides. Zhen says AI can also help with that.
If you can manage all of these parameters and then provide to your plants in a nice way, and then you can have good quality yield fruit and without spray.
So far, the harvest has been satisfying.
These ones feel like there's strawberry all the way through, so you get more in a bite.
Zhen hopes to be one of the top 4 teams in the challenge that will receive up to $5 million to bring their concepts to life in large scale. Krista Simpson, CTV News, Guelph.
Canadian Blood Services has apologized to the LGBTQ2S+ community for a decades-long policy that it now says it regrets and was discriminatory.
We acknowledge how this policy reinforced the harmful public perception that someone's blood is somehow less safe because of their sexual orientation.
The previous policy prevented sexually active men who had sex with other men from donating blood and plasma. The rules were changed in 2022 to be based on a person's sexual behavior and not their gender or sexuality. Similar rules took effect this week for sperm and egg donors.
A Los Angeles judge has granted a conservatorship for Beach Boys co-founder Brian Wilson to manage his personal and medical decisions. Wilson's publicist and his manager have been named conservators. 81-year-old Wilson suffers from a neurocognitive disorder, and his family sought the petition after his wife died in January. A lawyer for Wilson says he consents to the arrangement and he's aware of things like place and time, but could only name 2 of his 7 children.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is expected to reign supreme at the weekend box office.
Remember your strength.
Deadline reports the film brought in $6.6 million U.S. in previews, effectively tying the previous entry in the franchise. Ticket sales for the week suggest stunt performer tribute Fall Guy will fall to second place, while tennis drama Challengers may hold on to the bronze.
Comedian Dave Chappelle is set to play several shows here in Toronto next week. Event promoter Live Nation shared the news just yesterday, announcing Chappelle will perform 5 times between Monday and Wednesday at the Opera House. If you're only finding out about this now, chances are you won't be able to snag a seat. Ticketmaster's website says all of the shows are already sold out.
After the break, losing millions and at risk of running out of operating funds, Canada Post is on the hunt for solutions, and one of them might be putting an end to daily mail delivery.
Couldn't be more excited to have the chance to witness women's professional basketball.
Updating our top stories, it's not a slam dunk, but it appears the WNBA is coming to Toronto. Multiple reports suggest the city will be the next expansion site for the Professional Women's Basketball League. It's believed the team could tip off in Toronto as early as 2026.
There's no complacency. We're not here to sell jerseys.
Toronto Maple Leaf top brass faced the media to discuss the team's first-round playoff loss, as well as plans for the future following yesterday's firing of coach Sheldon Keefe. Team officials say past results are unacceptable and everything is on the table going forward.
I think that there's a very real danger presented to the students, if there were to be a possible police escalation.
And protesters inside the encampment site at the University of Toronto say they're preparing for police to move in. This comes after police in Calgary cleared an encampment there late last night. Protesters say they have no plans to leave U of T campus and say school officials have yet to respond to their demands.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
It was a blowout month for the Canadian economy on the labor front, according to new data released by Stats Canada. For more, here's BNN Bloomberg's Amber Kanwar.
The Canadian economy added more than 90,000 jobs in the month of April. That's the highest amount in 15 months and more than 3 times what economists expected. The gains were both in part-time and full-time employment. Now, this comes at a time when immigration into Canada has been at record levels. So even with the job gains, the unemployment rate held steady at 6.1%, and wages only grew 4.8%, which is the slowest pace of gains since June 2023. Economists say that while the headline growth was strong, there's still a case to be made for a rate cut by the Bank of Canada at some point this year. The CEO of OpenAI says that ChatGPT will get an update at a product launch on Monday. The viral generative AI tool sent shockwaves through the tech sector when it was launched in the end of 2022 and was viewed as a game changer that will touch every part of our lives. While we wait for details on what new features will be added, the CEO, Sam Altman, said they won't be launching a search engine to rival Google's, at least not yet. There has been some concern that ChatGPT is a Google disruptor, although Google's market share has remained over 90%, even with the launch of ChatGPT. Shares of COVID vaccine maker Novavax soared 100% today. It's a wild move we don't typically see in a single day. The move came after it signed a $1.2 billion deal with Sanofi to license a combined COVID-19 and flu shot. But even with this rally, Novavax is still down 97% from the height of the pandemic. Now let's take a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar essentially unchanged at around 73 cents US, while oil prices slipped below $78 per barrel in the US. In Canada, oil prices also saw a down day, down to around $66 per barrel. And the TSX ended on a soft note, shedding 67 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Kanwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Facing massive financial difficulties, Canada's Postal Service is looking for ways to adapt to changing consumer habits.
One of the ideas on the table, ending daily mail delivery, something Canadians have relied on for generations. CTV's Katie Griffin reports.
How often do you check your mail?
My husband checks it every day.
I'd say we check our mail about once a week.
Cutting daily delivery could be on the table as Canada Post looks to change how and when it delivers mail while facing mounting financial pressure.
I think that's fine. Yeah, I don't think we need to be getting our mail every day.
I rarely get things that are so urgent that I need them every day, but I know that some people do, like people who still get their checks and live paycheck to paycheck. It matters if you get it today or tomorrow.
Canada Post lost $748 million last year and could run out of operating funds within a year. Letter mail has continued to decline since 2006, when the Crown Corporation delivered 5.5 billion pieces of mail. Last year, it delivered just 2.2 billion.
A lot of the rules governing how and when mail is delivered were put in place in 2009 when Netflix was delivering DVDs in the mail. A lot has changed since then. So if we're going to create a new modern approach that meets the needs of Canadians today, then we need to make changes and look at everything.
I think that they have to do something.
We, as a lot of people, are actually going online. And so we don't have very much mail anymore. And that's been Canada Post's problem.
The union representing postal workers says the way out of this is through expanding services, not cuts.
We have more locations across Canada than Tim Hortons, and in some small and remote areas, they're the only federal building which people see is the Canada Post location. So to offer postal banking at those locations will be great. Also, we want to do some senior check-ins.
The company has turned to parcels and e-commerce, but it's not enough.
You know, the requirements today are that we deliver 5 days a week. Well, delivery today spreads into the weekend, it goes on evenings, so we need to figure out how we can play better in that space, because those in the parcel business, and that's where the growth is, and that's where we need to chase, we need to be much better in that space. A 5-day-a-week delivery model just doesn't fit that anymore.
Katie Griffin, CTV News.
It looks like Apple may be joining fellow tech giants in betting on generative AI. That's the term for artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT, which can provide complex answers to complex questions. The New York Times reports Apple execs have chosen to focus on AI and incorporate the tech into its Siri voice assistant so it can chat rather than respond to questions one at a time. Apple didn't comment, but could share more at its annual developers conference, which is June 10th.
Coming up, a match made in healthcare, walking down the aisle inside the hospital where they met. Their heartwarming love story just ahead.
Hi, Toronto. I'm Teddy Wilson.
And I'm Nicole Cervinas. Welcome to Things to Know TO.
Each week, this show shines a spotlight on a wide variety of local businesses, services, events, and initiatives from across the Greater Toronto Area.
These companies are part of what makes Toronto one of the world's most vibrant cities and a great place to live, work, and play.
Join us every week on Saturday mornings for Things to Know TO.
And don't forget to visit our website, thingstoknowto.ca, to check out all of our great content.
Wedding bells rang over the weekend for a Toronto couple.
But today they had the chance to celebrate their union inside the place they met, Holland Bloorview Kids Rehab. CTV's Pauline Chan has their story.
Our venue is where we got married. Holland Bloorview is where we met and fell in love.
Will Gossaert and Elizabeth Dunphy got married on May 4th, but they returned to the place where their pandemic courtship happened to get photos of the spots that meant the most to them, like the bus stop where Will first offered his new co-worker a ride home back in 2019. Will first came to Holland Bloorview as a 3-year-old to receive his first prosthetic leg.
I'm a left leg amputee from the time that I was born.
As a child, Holland Bloorview gave Will the ability to run and play sports like any other kid, and it gave him a job after he studied at the George Brown program for prosthetics and orthotics.
Which helps it stay on because I am a technician and have made my own leg.
And it brought him love.
I was hired initially in the front office of the orthotics and prosthetics department, and Will is a tech here, and that's how we initially met. I was starting a new job. I was very nervous. It was nice to see a smiling face, and we found out that we had a lot in common.
Will proposed in New Orleans, and the couple was surrounded by Holland Bloorview colleagues for their wedding. But they didn't take time for a honeymoon, choosing instead to save up for a new home together. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A wise decision.
Practical. Congratulations. Oh, good. That dress was beautiful. We're getting some beautiful weather this weekend, just in time for Mother's Day.
We've had some unsettled weather throughout the week, just kind of scattered showers off and on, but just in time for your mama, my mama, all the mamas out there, and just the mother figures. It'll be beautiful on Sunday. Get out and enjoy it if you can. Today, we're still dealing with some scattered shower activity. This is pretty high-level stuff, so I know it looks like it's everywhere right now, but a lot of this has broken up as we made our way into the second half of our day. Really mild out there. Still 18 in Windsor, 15 in Toronto, 16 in Ottawa. Around home tomorrow, a little scattered shower activity in the afternoon, but not a wash. By the time we get to Sunday, 19, a little sunshine. It's pretty nice as we get ready to wrap up the weekend. Looking ahead to next week, it'll be warm, a little drizzly on Monday, but overall, it's not too bad. I'll take it.
We'll take it. Thank you, Jess. That is it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, thank you for watching and have a great night.